Hey guys, welcome back. I am late with my book wrap up of the month again. Honestly, when am I not late? It's been probably like half a year. Anywho, I had read some really interesting books this month, or I mean last month. I have 3 physical copies and we are going to start off with physical copies. I read this month 12, or last month 12 books. I have to say I was slumping. I think within the first 2 weeks of the month I had read only like 2 books, and within the last 2 weeks I started like properly getting out of my reading slump, and then I got into one again for the month of November. Anyway, that's another topic for the next wrap up, but let's start off with If We Were Villains, and I absolutely love this. This was like my favorite book ever. Well, to be fair, I had read A Little Life this year and that book will forever be my favorite book of all time, so I feel like this just comes so close to that. The writing style was so easy to read. Apart from like the Shakespeare scenes, I didn't really understand the Shakespearean scenes that much, but I felt like the writing style was easy to follow. It was like very lyrical, poetical, and if you don't know, it's basically about these 7 individuals who go to an acting college type of thing, and so they live together, they eat together, they do everything together, so they're really interconnected. And then this one thing, like big thing, happens to them and you see how they kind of fall apart and breaks up the group dynamic. So it definitely has the found family trope, it has the dark academia, which I'm loving at the moment, and I'm reading everything that I can find on dark academia. I feel like that's really is becoming one of my favorite genres of all time. Something that I've started this year is annotating books, so I think it's just so fun and brings the whole experience in, like ties it all in together so nicely. But what I have recently started to do is I literally print out some pictures, kind of like the aesthetic of the books that I can find, and just put them into my books, because obviously I'm not great at drawing, and obviously it just kind of takes time and perfection, and I'm not that artistic, to be fair. But where can I find another one? Hold on. Like, does it not look cute? It looks so cute, and I'm definitely gonna do this for my favorite books of all time, like my absolute, you know, 6-star books, because I feel like it brings in the whole reading experience, and just the book makes it that much more special, if that makes sense. I highly recommend, if you haven't done that, like, do that. Yeah, so this one is like my absolute favorite book. If you haven't read it, please, if there is one book that like, if you can take from my recommendations, it's If We Were Villains. Like, highly recommend it. Alright, then following the theme of dark academia, this one is Gothikana by runyx, and listen, I love this one so much as well. I feel like this one leans a bit more towards like romance. Like, it is dark romance, but it's like one of those dark romances is if you are getting into dark romances kind of book. It's not dark, but it does follow the dark academia. Like, this girl called Krista, so she gets accepted into a university, like very kind of secret, prestigious college type of thing. It's just so much more than that. Like, there's mystery, there's romance, there's, you know, dark academia. It is just so good, and you want to start dipping your toes a bit more into dark academia. I feel like this is a great option. I personally love dark academia already, so, and I love romance, and it just brings the two things together, and it's just so nicely written, if that makes sense. So yeah. And then for the last paperback we have Bad Blood by Jennifer Lynn. Listen, I feel like I've fallen out with Jennifer Lynn books. I feel like they're not my cup of tea anymore, which is so strange because I read a good few of her books, right? And I feel like, and I'm not sure, like, I love the first 2 books in the series, The Naturals and whatever the second book was called, whereas the third, All In and Bad Blood, and also the novella that comes in the end of the book, which is called 12, I feel like the last 2 books I didn't enjoy them as much, and I've read them all pretty recently, and I've fallen out with her writing style. I feel like they're not hitting the way that they're supposed to, at least for me. I love the group, I love the found family trope that they have, But I felt like the last two books felt so repetitive, and I don't know, sadly I didn't this was kind of getting me into reading slump. And especially the novella 12, it was like over 100 pages long, which was kind of long for a novella, I feel like, and it was just so repetitive, and I don't know, it just wasn't my favorite, and I hate to say it, but here we are. Alright, so this was actually from my monthly TBR, so I did not too bad for that. But I had read The Perfect Son by Freida McFadden. I'm literally getting to all the other Freida McFadden books because I feel like her books have that thriller-esque feeling to them instead of just being mystery. But I felt like I like the pacing of this. I like the short chapters. I like the fact that it had interview transcripts. I feel like the reveal was very predictable, especially if you watch thriller movies or crime docs, or you know, you've read other thriller books. I feel like this was a little bit predictable, but I felt like there was also a plot hole, because when it was getting to that reveal there was something said and I was just like, well, this makes absolutely no sense, because how can it be this person when anyway, it felt like it had a plot hole, which I don't know if anyone else caught on to that. I mean, if you like Freida McFadden books, yeah, go ahead and read it. Like, it's still, the pacing was good is what I'm saying. And it's actually about this family. The mom is well aware that there's something wrong with her son, and he's kind of like showing all these serial killer habits, if that's the word that I'm looking for. Like, he's showing symptoms, if that makes sense, like that he will become one. And when a certain girl goes missing, everyone's pointing fingers at him. I mean, it is a little predictable. Then we had Hideaway, and listen, I was so excited to get to this book. Like, listen, Devil's Night series is like one of my favorite dark romance book series. Like, it's so good. If you love dark romances, please read this if you haven't already. But I feel like, you know, their mom and their dog and everyone has read this series at this stage already. I'm just late to the party. The only reason why I feel like I didn't rate it as highly as I would have hoped to was because it didn't feel like it was Kai's book. Kai is one of the horsemen in the group, and I feel like it deals with a bit more of darker topics in this book, and you kind of get to see why one of the characters is the way that he is. But Penelope did such a great job at making this book series just so atmospheric and very like dark, but I could see it as like a movie in my mind. The way that I read it, the way that it was written, that was really my only issue. It didn't really feel like it was Kai's book, because it wasn't like the whole focus wasn't as much on him. And this was great for the month of October. Like, listen, this was great. Then I read The Cruel Prince, so I was a little bit all over the place, and I had such low hopes going into this one, and listen, I was getting into a reading slump at this stage. But because I went into this with such low expectations, I didn't think anything of it. But listen, why does this feel like a Throne of Glass series book? Like, if you've read Throne of Glass, and I would say Akatar as well, some parts, it literally felt like those books. And a lot of people were like saying, oh, this is so political. This wasn't political. Like, at least it didn't feel like politics to me per se. But I think this was just so enjoyable, and I didn't really even care that this was young adult. Like, some young adult books I felt like are really frustrating because like they're not grabbing my attention as much as I would have wanted them to be. But this was like grabbing my attention and everything, and I enjoyed the plot, I enjoyed the story, I enjoyed the romance or the crumbs that you were getting in it. I thought this was like really enjoyable, so I don't know what people are talking about. And listen, this is where my reading slump hit me. I've been seeing people love this book, so it's not talked about as much, but I have seen some people talk about this book, and I thought like this was going to be great. This was gonna be my next Twilight book. No, this sadly was not. This was like a bit more on the spicier side, and I'm not sure what the plot even was. It was just this vampire who ended up waking up after so many years, and he's like, and he's being told that the rites are happening again, and he needs to participate in them because like he's just like filthy rich vampire. and he doesn't want to be married off, which I don't understand what the issue even is, because it's just to create kids, right? And he's like, no, I don't want it. Like, it's not like you're gonna be raising these kids anyway. I don't know, I had like such issues with this book, to be honest. So I had beef with this book. Also, the main female character, she was just like really frustrating because like she was being so gullible and just so naive, and I was just like, please tell me you're not so naive. Oh, I forgot about this one. Saints and Sinners, I wanted to love this one so much, and it just seems so interesting. It's about a coroner who is also a vigilante. Like, does that not sound great? That sounds just like something right up my alley. However, I felt like the relationship was taken away from the actual plot that was happening. I felt like the relationship was very suffocating at one stage, like closer to the end. I could not keep up, and this was so short. I think this was over 200 pages long, but I'm definitely on the hunt to find something similar to this vibe, but like with a better written plot, if that makes sense. I want something that really will scratch the itch in my brain the right way, because this really didn't. I went from very insufferable romances and smut and spice to something a bit more meaningful, and I felt like Fredrik Backman was just the right person for the job. And so I read Things My Son Needs to Know About the World, and listen, this was so gut-wrenching, and it's literally autobiography but for his son, if that makes sense. So there's like little short stories and everything that he's kind of saying to his son, and as a parent this made me bawl my eyes out. Fredrik Backman, you read his books for the writing. It's the same, you read Sally Rooney for her writing, you read Olivia Blake for her writing. If those authors are not your cup of tea, just Hastings, I'm looking at you, if those authors are not your cup of tea, you will not love this, you will not enjoy this, I feel like. Because there is a good bit of filler, but the quotes and everything, if you relate to something like that, you will love this. Like, I really was connecting to the story and everything that was being said. I just really enjoyed this, but I feel like even more this would be great for first-time dads, or for dads to be something like this. 100%. And Addicted to You, and I didn't think I was gonna like it, to be fair, because I've seen a lot of people like saying how infuriating the book was. However, I feel like if you love the Magnolia Park series, it's very similar to this. Also, it's kind of giving me the vibe of Saving Six and Redeeming Six, if that makes sense. If you read those books, I feel like you will really enjoy this too. So it's literally about this toxic relationship, and they're friends. Of course they're friends, and they're helping out one another by hiding their addictions from their family and friends, so nobody's aware that they are actually addicted to certain things. So they're kind of not stopping one another, or not being the right kind of friends. They're not treating one the way that a friend should treat them, and that was fine until these two individuals decided to get together, and their toxic habits were getting in the way of the relationship, in the way of everything, and that was where things started to take south. Personally, I'm always looking for books that have a bit more of realism in the story, instead of just like these like romance, fluffy, pink-eyed glasses kind of romance where you're just, I don't know, you have your head in the clouds. And I feel like this just felt so realistic. I felt seen as a person. I was relating to some parts. I felt like this was everything that I needed and everything that I was looking for, and these are the kind of romances that I love, which I can definitely make a book recs video for all of these romances, because personally that's just what I would go for, something a bit more realistic. Alright, last but not least, I read The One, and it's my first time reading anything by John Mars. I was a little bit deceived, first of all, because I felt like this was more of a thriller, and this wasn't. It felt more like a literary fiction mixed with, so this had so much plot twists. The chapters were short, but you're literally following all of these individuals who have received their like the one match that's like their perfect match, like looking at their DNAs kind of thing. And I was like getting to like 5%. Okay, so where is this going? Because this does not feel like a thriller. 10%, 20%, I was like, hold on, is this really a thriller? but if you would enjoy something like that, then go ahead. I personally ended up liking it because I do read a lot of things, but this I felt like was a mix between like Fredrik book and like Freida McFadden, maybe a mix of both of those. But yeah, you're not reading it for romance anyways. Yeah, so those are the 12 books that I read in the month of October. If you read any of these, please let me know, and hopefully you enjoy me yapping about my 12 books. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.